It's the start of a whole brand new month. It's the second half of the year, and we are looking at the stats that took place back in June, just a couple of days ago, because whether you're looking to move here, whether you're already here and it's time to trade up into a bigger house, whether it's time to trade down into a smaller house, the whole point is I'm going to give you all of the information you need to make sure that any decisions you're making from a real estate point of view are based on the facts and the statistics that we've actually got. So therefore it makes a smart decision for you. Now, when we look at the average price of June, that stood at $655,000. Still a big number. Now, don't forget, May, we hit the all-time peak at $666,000. So yes, we're down 2% on that number. And when we compare it to last year at 647, we're up 1% on last year. But it's not really changed too much, like 647, 655, 666 last month. They're very, very similar numbers. And it just goes to show that the Halifax real estate market is staying very strong. Now, one of the things that we like to look at, of course, is how many months of inventory we've got. So we're at 1.9 months. Last year, 1.9 months. Sorry, last month, 1.9 months. Last year, 1.8 months. So you can see that we're not actually being very different from 2025 to 2024 in terms of the first 3 months that we're looking at being kind of May and June, and then obviously June last year. And we're not seeing a big change at all. And that's going to be the driving factor when you kind of compare last year's results with this year. Yes, some of the numbers have changed, so we've probably listed more houses. I think we've sold a little bit less houses, but we're just not building up the inventory, because don't forget, when we look at inventory, there can be factors in there like, we're looking at the number of active houses for sale divided by the number of houses that we sold in June. And if we list no more, that gives us the 1.9 months of inventory. But this is also not taken account because we don't look at properties that expired, that were cancelled or withdrawn, because they all come off the market as not listings anymore. So that factors in as well. But when you look at the numbers, it's remarkably similar to last year. We're selling less houses, that's for sure. Our volume is actually down. If you kind of look at the first 6 months this year, first 6 months last year, our number of units are actually down. But when we look at another key measure, like how many houses are actually for sale right now, we're sitting at 995 houses for sale. Last month, that was 944. So we're pretty much the same in terms of how many houses are actually for sale right now. But last year, that was 857. So we've put obviously quite a few more houses on the market this year, but it's not really changed the amount of inventory because we are selling more houses compared to last year. So hence, 1.8 months last year, 1.9 months this year, it's roughly the same number. 0.1 of a month is not really a lot. It's probably like 7 days or something like that. So it doesn't really change too much. Now, one of the other items that we look at as well is, of course, days on market. And we were up in the kind of 1 month range, 31, 32 days at the start of this year. But right now, we've changed. We're at 26 days on market. Last month, that was 25. So give or take its day, it's not really changed too much. So you're talking just over 3 weeks to actually get your property for sale, conditionally sold. But also when we look at last year, that was 37. So we're 11 days better than last year. And certainly at the start of this year, that was sitting in the 30 range as well. So roughly 1 month at the start of this year. Now we're down to kind of, let's say, 3 and a little bit weeks. So that trend is sort of moving in the right direction, but the prices are still staying relatively high. Moving into our list to sale percentage. So in other words, what you list for versus what you sell for, what is the percentage? Well, right now we are sitting at 99.6%. So it's $2,500, maybe $3,000 difference, which is not a huge number. But again, we'll go back to what we've been trending and what we've been looking at and giving you all the information on for kind of the start of this year is, but what's going on with those price reductions? So we did an average $37,000 price drop to get to the point where somebody said, okay, now I'll write you an offer. So that's somewhat got to be taken into account as well when you look at what the actual average sale to list price is, because we're not factoring in that $37,000 from the original list price. We're just looking at the list price that managed to make it go conditional and therefore sold. And that's why we're still sitting at like 99.6%. But like we just said, on average, $37,000 price drop to get to the listing price. Looking into the the new listings to sales, because that's another thing that we like to look at, because it tells you, okay, not only how many houses are active for sale, that's that roughly $1,000 homes that are actually for sale. But what we want to look at now is how many homes were listed in the month versus how many homes were sold, because that will give us a little bit of an idea as to like why we're sticking around that 1.9 months of inventory. In June, that was 82%. So we had new listings of 634. We sold 519. So like there's not a huge gap there between how many we sold versus how many we actually put up for sale in the month. Last month, that was at 66%. So we obviously listed a lot more in the month of June than we actually sold in the month of June. But last year, again, going back to June last year, it was at 86%. So very similar again in terms of the percentages. And that leads us nicely into, well, how many houses did we actually sell in the month of June? And that was, as I just alluded to, 519 homes. Last month, 496, so we're up 5% on last month, which is certainly giving us a little bit of interest, but there was a big bump in listings for the month of May in terms of new properties listed that we didn't really see in the month of June. And a lot of that is we're kind of getting into nicer weather. People are starting to look towards the end of the actual school year in June as well. So that it definitely has an effect on what's going to happen. And certainly July and August tend to be a little bit slower months because we have really nice weather. So people want to enjoy that and not necessarily be putting the houses up for sale, dealing with viewings, dealing with negotiations, unless they really do want to actually get the property done and dusted and sold. But July and August tends to be the time when people are moving in because they're looking at getting in for the new school year, start of September. I've helped many clients over the last 13 years find their real estate needs here in the Halifax area. So if you're one of those people and you're watching this thinking, I need to talk to Richard because we need to figure out what we're going to do either this year, whether we're moving here, trade up, trade down, investing in properties for the first time, then click on that link down below. Let's schedule a time and we can have a chat. So we've covered off the actual sale to list price being 99.6%. But one of the other things that we didn't really talk about was, well, okay, how many houses were going over asking price and how many houses were going under asking price? Because, I mean, again, if we're selling roughly sale to list price being the same number, we'd expect the number of houses either to be like slightly over, slightly under and staying therefore on the 99.6. But it was interesting because when we looked at those 519 homes, there were 220 of those that were actually over asking price, and the average over asking was $26,000. So there's still quite a lot of properties that are going for sale because 220, that's just a little bit over half in terms of houses going over asking price. And when you average that at $26,000, that tells you there is still a very, very healthy appetite for good properties priced well in good locations here in Halifax. And I think that's the big message here, why, you know, potentially you look at Vancouver, you look at Toronto, and they're definitely slowing down. For some reason, Edmonton and Calgary are actually doing really well. But when you get to the major cities, those are the ones that are actually starting to really struggle a bit and actually slow down. Whereas, yes, I know our average price point now, we're up in the 650s, but still, we are trucking along quite nicely and we're not really showing any signs of slowing down here in Halifax. The big thing we want to concern ourselves with is that average price going to keep climbing and stay in that 650s, or are we going to start actually coming back down into the 600s? And when we look at average price brackets that we'll do in a second as well, that'll give you some idea as to like, well, is it the average prices of houses that are keeping us so high? So looking at those price brackets, under 400,000, there was 45 homes that were actually sold. 4 to 500 was 102. 5 to 600 was 127. And that's our biggest bracket for the number of sales, in that 5 to 600 range. 6 to 700 was 103 homes. And then it drops off pretty quickly. 7 to 800, 63 homes. 8 to 900, 31 homes. 900 to a million, 17. But this is the interesting one, and this is why I think our average price point is staying pretty high at the moment, is between $1 and $2 million homes. We sold 37 homes in that price bracket, which is a lot of homes between that. And then over 2 millions, we actually did have 4 properties that were sold in the month of June as well. So when you look at those, yes, 5 to 700,000, that's the sweet spot. There's roughly 230 homes were sold, which is practically half of the homes sold were in that particular price bracket. But when you get to like that 1 to 2 million and there's 37 homes sold, that's giving you the reason, I think, as to why we're still holding up there with that average price point in June. Okay, let's move on to our top 3 markets. Well, coming in at number 1 was Timberley Prospect and St. Margaret's Bay. They had a $666,000 list price, $669,000 sale price. So they're at like just over $3,000 sale to list price. 32 days on market, 63 sales in the month, 116 are active, which gives them 1.8 months of inventory. So they've been, I think, number 1 and number 2 for the last 5-6 months. So they're obviously trucking along quite nicely there. And don't forget, it does include Timberley, so that will include all the new construction in Brunello Estates. It's got Upper Tantallon in there. It's got Huberley in there. It's got Tantallon in there. It's got Stillwater Lake in there, Halliburton Hills, all of those areas which are very popular. So there, and again, average price point there is $669,000, so fairly average, but they did have some of the over $1 million stuff going on as well because it's St. Margaret's Bay. Number 2 was East Hants and Colchester West, so that is Enfield, Elmsdale, Lance, that whole corridor up there. Their list price was $464,000, average sale of $466,000, so roughly $2,000 over asking price. 24 days on market, which is moving pretty quickly up there. 43 sales, 119 active, which gives them 2.8 months of inventory. So pushing 3 months is quite a good number up there for the amount of inventory. So you've definitely got some choice up there. And again, $465,000 as an average sale price is a really good average sale price. So if you're okay with a little bit longer of a commute, that might be the area for you to look at. Coming in at number 3 was Sackville. So $524,000 average list, 528 sale. So you're talking $4,000 over asking price there. 13 days on market, not even 2 weeks. 38 sales, only 37 for sale. That gives them 1 month of inventory. So again, I mean, $528,000 is actually a pretty good area for Sackville because it has all of the amenities you could ever need right on your doorstep. So typical first-time home buyers market there as well, or potentially even that first jump up on the property ladder, going from owning your first small semi-detached or terraced house and going into the semi or the detached house, then Lower Sackville is the one for you. And that wraps up the month of June. Now, if you've been watching all the way through, then do actually hit up the thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a like, definitely subscribe. And if you have any questions, my contact links are down below, so you can get in touch with me. Click on the link, schedule a time, and let's see if we can figure out your plan of action for real estate in this year.